Don't look at me.
Who are you?
Could it be Satan?
All right.
Welcome, space explorers, Ood servants, possessed people from both of the above categories, and overgrown escapees from Doom, to the 327th episode of an Unearthly Podcast, streaming live on the 30th of October, 2019. Happy Halloween. Today we're featuring The Impossible Planet and the Satan Pit, written by Matt Jones, and starring David Tennant as the Doctor and Billy Piper as Rose Tyler. I'm Bill Sylvia, the Man in Black, and I would have mentioned that the Ood were lobotomized, but we don't actually know that yet. With me are Randy Ronson McCulloch.
I have pneumonia. Rockin' pneumonia, but not the boogie woogie flu.
Mad Matt Winchell,
I'm still eating gobstoppers.
and Tim the Enchanter Sheridan.
Meow, 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 meow.
Apparently recently been to see cats.
Meow, 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 meow,
Is-
meow, 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 meow.
I think we need to borrow a note from Looney Tunes to throw a boot at him.
Is that actually the lyrics to the songs and Cats?
No, I was just joking.
Ah,
No, it's the actual lyrics to Doctor Who.
sure.
Yeah.
Lyrics. Air quotes. There's only one
you-
version that ever had lyrics and never made to television.
Did you engage in the ritual dance?
Oh, yes. You can't see it, but it was beautiful. Okay, that's a bit of an awkward silence.
Yeah, I usually wait for the awkward silence to go, and on tonight's show.
Usually at that point, someone starts talking about the weather or something else that happened to them this week other than Randy's rant. And I guess
It's
everything's
snowing for the
saved
second
for
time in
Randy.
Wisconsin. It sucks.
Mhm.
Oh God, yes, we have snow. It's
I'm jealous.
October. We shouldn't. I mean, we broke our record for one day of snow on what was it, Monday?
Hmm.
Barely, nearly broke it for the next day too.
Oh, it's
early-
heading into it yet again tonight.
The
Oh,
earliest
joy.
I remember us having snow here in Connecticut is about a week ago. Like a week ago in whatever year it was. But then it melted and tore down a bunch of power lines because it was not cold enough to stay snow.
I remember about 1986 or 87, we had freezing rain on Halloween. I remember.
Oh no, you wouldn't have talked about it because we weren't on the podcast yet. But I feel like that did get brought up at some point.
I just remember coming off the bus onto sheet ice in my
86,
driveway.
87, so I would have been between 1 and 2 years old.
You youngins. I just remember it. I just remember that moment, just coming off the bus onto sheet ice. It's like, how am I supposed to go trick or treating tonight? You know, back when trick or treating was actually a thing.
It's a thing. It's a thing that they're slowly robbing from us now lately, it seems.
Yeah, I have not seen a trick or treater since I want to say I haven't seen one in this millennium.
I got about I don't want to say it's 40 kids, but I definitely want to say we got about 30 kids this year. Could have easily handed out more candy than I did to each kid.
You mean
but-
last year?
No, this year. We've already had trick-or-treating. Because my town sucks. Not only do they force it backwards to be on a Sunday, because, totally the people who are into football are going to take their kids out trick-or-treating on a Sunday, but
So
they also force it to be 1 till 3 in the afternoon.
So I get when they push it to a Saturday because they don't want it to interfere with school. But why would you put it on a Sunday when, like, the fact that you just said that they make it at lunchtime, kind of prevents it from interfering with Monday morning. But still,
They make it too early so that people who are big into sports are not going to be doing anything. They make it the wrong day, so once again the whole sports thing gets in the way. They kill the mood for what's supposed to be like early evening trick or treating, because that's where the best time is to actually do this stuff.
Yeah, it's that, that because my job when, back when we had trick or treaters was to scare the pants off the trick or treaters.
Still effective, by the way.
Not as much during, if it's 1 to 3 in the afternoon, that it is at 7 at night when it's just dark.
Tell that to the 3 kids who won't come near my house.
I remember, and mind you, I was a late teenager, young man at the time, and Halloween was my jam. I would go around, dot twee, dot 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 twee, and I would set up all this scary stuff. And I had a doormat that you stepped on it, and it would give off this atrocious howl scream. And I remember somebody stepped on it, and it must have been a like 4 or 5-year-old kid. And I just hear the sound go off, and I hear a voice, a voice, obviously a parent at the end of the sidewalk go, "What was that?" Little kid goes, "I don't know, but I just wet my pants." And at the time I was like, yes, thank you, Lord,
Victory.
And now I realize I was a bit of a dick back then.
Now, I even the ones that are afraid, I still chase after them with M&Ms, just like no. I try to be as nice as possible while still in costume, but it's hard to pull off a costume which has multiple straps and Velcro.
All right, I think that's a good segue to move
What's
on
on tonight's show?
Yep.
So
fine.
Okay. So on tonight's show, we've got news and birthdays, or as I'm referring to it now, births and deaths. Geek talk, we have a little bit. I do have a rant this week, which is where you're going to hear about what happened to my previous week and why I was not here. A review of shame also from me from about this week, because unlike some other hosts, when I miss a week, I come back with the review. Oh.
Shade and shame.
With that, of course, there's going to be a score addition to last week's episode. And then, of course, we have our episode summary, our review, our final thoughts, and our ratings. So, going into news and birthdays, with our births and deaths birthdays, we have the first one, which is an honorary birthday on our part, which we do for celebrities that we like, who cameoed in Doctor Who. And that would be John Cleese, who played an art critic in a episode of City of Death, and is, of course, best known as a member of the comedy troupe Monty Python, turned 80. And that just kind of hit me as how old these guys are getting. It's like, little voice in my head goes, yeah, you realize that they were doing comedy back in 1969, and that wasn't their first show.
It's funny, just a week or two ago, somebody was telling me that they saw some episode of some clip or some episode of Doctor Who with Monty Python in a museum. And I was like, is it City of Death? They're like, I don't know. I'm like, pretty sure it was City of Death. And then we ended up looking it up, but
yes,
it's
John
only
Cleese.
be John Cleese.
He's the only member of Monty Python to have been on Doctor Who. And he was in it for exactly about a minute and a half.
Although there was an excellent blooper out of that, too. Do you have a pen? No, do you have a pen? Was wondering.
Anyway, moving forward to the 28th of October, and we celebrate the birthday of Matt Smith, who was, of course, the Doctor from New Year's Eve 2009 to Christmas 2013. And he turned 37 this week. He was in the news recently, but I can't remember for what.
I think I know I've seen images or headlines of people trying to figure out what role he's playing in Star Wars.
That's
That's
right, the
He's
Star Wars
it's not
thing.
it's not Star Wars too. He's also signed on for something new. But
You're right, but I don't remember what it was.
yeah, I saw like an interview with him that he's up for something new after.
He's not in the new Terminator, is he?
No.
No, I don't think so.
No, there was something else, but I can't remember off the top of my head what it was at the moment.
Yeah, because it was like a new show or something,
Hmm.
a new drama that he's in. But yeah, I can't find that article anymore. Anyway, also on the 20th of October is the birthday of Ian Marter, who played Harry Sullivan in the first Tom Baker season, 1975 to 1976. He would have been 75, but died in 1986 from a heart attack at 42. Also, it's the anniversary of the death of Ian Marter,
Oof.
because he died on his 42nd birthday.
Wow.
Yeah, that's
Hmm.
not something I would want to do.
Guess he found the meaning of life, the universe, and everything, and was just done.
Yeah.
Arg. That's all
Yeah.
I'm going to say is arg.
I'm going to say let's go ahead and move on to our episode news,
Speaking of 42,
we have some episode first for a previous episode, which was going to be Thomas, but I will do it in his stead since he's not here. The BBC announced the next Lost serial to get the reanimation treatment at this year's London Comic Con. The 42nd serial, Fury from the Deep, is next to be released sometime in 2020. This announcement came complete with a teaser, which is mostly scenery shots and the infamous foam. If you recall, the current telesnapped version got a middle-of-the-road rating from us, so it'll be interesting to see if this will improve our opinion. Anybody else watch the teaser for this?
no.
No.
Did not realize there was a teaser.
I just showed it really quick.
Yeah,
Weird.
it's like I said, it's like background music and like a siren, and basically a bunch of foam, and I think you can see some tentacles.
Yeah, there's one point with the foam, then you see a bunch more foam come in, and then you see the tentacles.
Yeah, and that's really it. There's no actual people.
It looks like it might be the same people behind Macratur, and if that's the case, then I'm really hoping for this one because they put some extra effort on Macratur.
Oh yeah, that was good. I think you missed that one, Bill. That was good. Or no, did you get back for that one?
Macratera, I was here for.
Okay.
Yeah, he
You're
showed
the
up late for it. We keep thinking he wasn't here.
I was gonna say you're the second person to be convinced I wasn't here that day.
It's because it happened last season. We expect you're not there. I have a point. All right. That moves us from our previous episode news into our
Future episodes like this will affect you in the future. As
I
we
can see
know,
the future. Yeah.
Time.
Okay. Go ahead, Tim.
As we know, filming is done on the actual Series 10. The
Or
current
12.
filming-
12. Sorry, that
Series
was a
12.
typo.
Series 12, 12, 12. The current filming is for the Christmas special, and that's nearly done, we hope anyway. Time for post-production increasing daily. With that, the cast and crew decided on the 25th that it was time for a wrap party, and with Halloween around the corner, it became a costume wrap party. Several people posted pictures to Instagram with costume shots.
Yep. And as we can see, those pictures have made it to Cult Box, and
Ooh, I see Wednesday Adam.
yeah, and that's supposed to be a mortician next to her, I think.
I see Sia.
Well, yep. And then, of course, the other picture was somebody there that's getting a screenshot at the TARDIS at the party. So looks like he did a dress up as David Tennant.
Panda.
Huh?
Oh, there's a panda. with Mandip Gill is Frida Kahlo and a panda.
Mm.
Yeah, one of the secondary pictures. There's somebody in essentially a giant panda suit.
I missed the additional picture. Oh, yes.
The second one, yeah.
Not a panda I'm familiar with.
Yeah, I can't say I can place that
What?
panda.
Where is the link to the more pictures?
It's
Scroll
just
down.
a little right arrow on the second picture and on the first one, too.
It might just be a generic panda.
Yeah, it's hard to say.
Yeah, I can't tell with the eyes. That's where you can really tell your pandas apart, is what their eyes are doing.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Just kind of a derpy panda suit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it doesn't look like Jack Black, but...
Yeah, it doesn't look like Jack Black's Kung Fu Panda, nor does it look like Genma Sao Tome in panda form. And it doesn't look like any other of the like kid-friendly pandas I've seen. So,
Well, there's a hashtag that says Kung Fu Panda.
It doesn't really look like it, though.
Yeah.
It's hard to tell. Does he have the Kung Fu Panda loincloth?
Maybe they bought one of the knockoff costumes that just says something like martial arts bear or something.
Yeah.
Like I said, I could really tell my pandas apart by the eyes.
All right.
So, that's really what we have about that one. Go ahead into the next article.
Okay, we here at an Unearthly Podcast have been speculating for months that Series 12, excluding the Christmas special, will begin on January 1st. We based this semi-educated guess on small details like when BBC Books was releasing their side-along novels and other tidbits. However, more evidence has come to light supporting our theory. The Pilot TV's holiday section lists Doctor Who Series 12 and references Episode 1 in particular, with the Jadoon, is starting in early 2020. However, this is a section for programming during the holidays, which end on 1st January.
Oh.
Titan Comics has announced a comic miniseries that is spun off from Episode 1. This comic is set for release on January 8th. Regardless, we'll probably know for certain in a month. Keep listening.
So, yeah, I mean, it's still speculation.
So our schedule won't be confirmed until like January 1st if Channel has his way.
No, it won't be confirmed until like December 1st. They usually give you a month warning so they can start the hype machine. So it would probably be at the end of November, the beginning of December.
Yeah, I would think the earliest they might start the hype train, at least a tidbit, might be if they drop something during Thanksgiving or something to that effect.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because they might do that, considering the fact that with the Christmas special, that technically means Series 12, Episode 0 is on Christmas and starts weekly from there.
Quite possibly.
And then our final article.
The Doctor Who film crew was spotted on the streets of Cardiff late last night, and this morning probably doing some last-minute shoots for the Christmas special. Places in particular seems to be City Centre and the Cardiff Castle, where Dalek props were seen and the main cast trailer was spotted. To note, though, is that Bradley Walsh was in London at the time. This is probably the last location shoot for the special, and anything more will be done on set later this week.
And hopefully that means that all filming will be in the bucket by the end of the week, and that they'll have at least a month to post it.
Yeah, I'm guessing this is like second unit, finishing up, like getting all the extra clips of like people panicking and stuff.
And there might have been a little bit with like Jodie Whittaker and one or more companions, because they usually split up. So.
Unless they already have that in the bag and they just need extra footage of people running or any.
Well, no, they said the main cast trailer was seen there.
Oh, the main cast trailer was there. Okay.
Yep. They just noted
still
the fact
second unit footage with them, but yeah, nothing
that,
major or dialogue heavy.
Yep. They said that it was weird. The main cast trailer was there because Bradley Walsh was in London, but if he had split up from the group at the time, or he and another companion had, and
Or
They
if there's a
always-
close up of one or two characters.
They always split the party. The GM of Doctor Who must be so frustrated.
oh
That-
yeah, it's always Bradley Walsh and what's his face? The guy that plays his grandson,
Tosin Cole.
Tosin Cole.
Yeah.
And then it's Jodie Whittaker. And God, I still cannot remember the
Amanda Gupta.
I can barely remember the character names. Oh God, I think I'm gonna have to rewatch series 11 before watching series 12.
You're getting old, Ran.
No, I'm just terrible with names. I have been since a little kid. I remember the companion names from Doctor Who because they've drilled them into my head over the course of like freaking 20, 30 years.
I was gonna say, do you watch? And you're like, oh yeah, there's the doctor and the annoying short kid with the badge, and the loud Aussie, and
Originally, and then it's like, okay, that's Tegan and that's Adric. Okay, got it. And that's Nissa. That's the hot one. Okay, got that.
Janet Fielding recently tweeted that apparently Tegan's personality was based off of her mother.
Ooh.
I always liked Tegan's personality.
Still feels like some minor throwing of shade.
All right,
Well,
so that is our episode 12 news. The only other serious news this week came out of Big Finish.
All right. Coming in December is a new miniseries from Big Finish based on the ever-popular Robots of Death serial. Robots will star Nicola Walker as 8th Doctor companion Liv Chenka and Claire Rushbrook as her sister Tula, and feature the Caldor robots, the Dumbs, the Vokes, and the Super Vokes. Or is it Vox?
Vox.
It is Vox. Okay. The Vox and the Super Vox. The Robots Volume 1 has 3 stories. The Robots of Life by Roland Moore, The Sentient by Robert Whitelock, Love Me Not by John Dorney. The Robots Volume 1 will be released in December 2019 and is available now at the special pre-order price of £19.99 on Collector's Edition CD or £16.99 on download. And I think we can confirm that they're just slapping the word Collector's Edition in front of every CD release from now on. So
Yeah,
we
well,
don't need to keep
what
repeating
Collector's Edition means to Big Finish is limited run.
Yeah.
Big Finish is mostly doing its business now via download.
Basically, they're not churning out a warehouse full of CDs anymore because they realize it sits there for 25 years.
Correct. Yeah, they're only doing like a run of like 1,000 or 100 or I don't know how many, but and so they number them and make them collector's editions, so you'll know which number you get. Because they started doing it with their vinyl first, and then they said,
Well,
"Hey, this is what."
They originally did it, I think, with the I think Light at the End might have been before the vinyl, and that was specifically a limited run. And then they started doing more and more limited runs, and then eventually all the CDs became limited runs.
Okay. Yeah, so now if you want it on physical, you need to buy as soon as it comes out.
Mm-hmm.
If you just want to download, you can wait a bit and buy the entire set in one shot. Because they will have special rates for like the Robots one. I think this is going to be a 4-part mini series. So they'll eventually have a special to collect all of Robots 1 through 4 on download.
So 12 episodes, 12 stories then on the 8th Doctor and the Robots of Death.
Well, no, there's no 8th Doctor in this.
Oh, just his companions.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, just Liv Chenka. She's basically spending a year off the TARDIS to get to know her sister Tula, who she was apparently estranged or separated from.
Popular companion, because I'm not. I knew of the name, but that was about it.
Well, the selling point is the Caldor robots, which are actually pretty popular.
Mm-hmm.
And apparently
popular to justify 12 stories, but
apparently Liv Chenka is a Caldorian, so
I wonder if this means that Paul is taking a hiatus, maybe to star in a movie or something.
It's possible, or it's just possible they're milking something else for as much as they can go.
Right.
Possibly.
Because sometimes you feel that way about Big Finish is, all they're really doing is going, hey, this is kind of popular. Let's make some audios about it so we can make some green,
Mhm.
or make some cash.
Well, at least when they do that, they also still say, "Let's also make sure it's quality, so we don't completely
Well,
bust the bank."
the acting's all quality. Sometimes the writing is a little bit redundant because it's like the
once in
same
a while, the
three
writing
guys
isn't
that
perfect,
write
but that's why we
everything.
review them.
Yeah.
Like John Dorney seems to write like everything for Big Finish.
I'm pretty sure he writes about 1/3 of their overall content.
Yeah. So it's like it starts to feel the same. And then there's other times where they get really good writing and they've done some really cool stuff. And then there's other points where you're just like, well, didn't they do this with just the names changed? Like, 30 episodes in the main range ago?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Happens.
It
Anyway.
happens when you have to crank out, because they're basically becoming like, the audio equivalent of Pulp Fiction. They have to crank out so many of those audios every year. And it does mean that sometimes they're a little more roughshod on the quality control. But then again, Doctor Who's a little roughshod on the quality control these days. Are you listening to us, Chibnall?
Are you accusing Big Finish of having wobbly sets?
No, I'm accusing Big Finish of having hack writers on occasion.
Oh.
And I'm also accusing Doctor Who of having hack writers.
Mm-hmm.
Or at least writers that shouldn't be writing sci-fi. Or don't know how to write sci-fi. Are you listening, Chibnall? All right.
Or writers that should know better, but they apparently got ganked somewhere. Chibnall?
Yeah. Not that Chibnall didn't inherit that particular flaw from someone who hired his Sherlock co-writer to write the worst ever episode of Doctor Who.
Yes, but I can't blame Moffat because he also hired Neil Gaiman.
I mean, I'm pretty sure Fan Demand hired Neil Gaiman.
He still did it, and he still wrote wonderfully.
He still managed to at least make pockets of fucking decency, despite anything above him.
Mm-hmm. I mean, shitty Series 6, and then we get freaking the Doctor's Wife, which is pure sex of an episode, so...
Watch they turn around and they're like, yeah, we got fucking Stephen King to come in and write an episode.
Fucking... Well, he's a horror writer. He could still do it.
Yeah.
He would probably need to have some oversight, but I would fucking watch that.
Yeah, I would have a little bit of editorial oversight, but he doesn't need it as much as some people out there.
Doctor Who has had more than its fair share of horror of episodes.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of which, I need to see that that sequel to The Shining that's coming up.
Speaking of horrible things, let's look at our next piece of news.
Okay. So recently, this is, by the way, we are finished with our Doctor Who news.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
We are now entering our other sci-fi fantasy news. And the big news this week is that Game of Thrones writers David Benoit and D.B. Weiss have left the Star Wars and Disney to produce, basically earn $9 million making new shows for Netflix.
This news came out about a day after they gave a long talk, basically saying that they bullshitted their way through Game of Thrones, having no idea what they were doing.
Yes.
So I'm sure that had nothing to do with the timing of the announcement.
So, and if you've watched Game of Thrones, you know this. Because actually what the thing is about these two, David Benoit and D.B. Weiss, is the fact that they're very good at taking something that is well written and making it into a screenplay.
Mm-hmm.
Meaning they have to do a base minimum amount of work.
Yeah, they're good at writing it, they're good at directing it.
Apparently, based on that talk as well, a lot of that credit goes to the actors who knew the characters coming onto the set better than D&D did.
Mm-hmm.
Don't call them
But
D&D. That's a name for something
no,
far better.
that's actually what they have been referred to as is D&D.
Yeah.
Don't care. It's
Eh,
it's a shorthand for something
Well,
far
it's-
better than them.
It's also throwing me off that while Randy is probably pronouncing it correctly, he's pronouncing it differently than anybody else I've heard say it out loud. So rather than pick a pronunciation, I went with what was more familiar to me.
What have you heard?
Either just Dan and Dave or Benoit.
It might be Benoit. I'm trying to read it off of here,
Right.
and it looks like Benoit, which is French.
That's what I'm saying. You're probably correct, but I've never heard anyone else say it that way, so I don't know.
I did take a semester of French.
Mm-hmm.
Fucking on a freaking French Discord server for one of my app games. I'm in a French guild in a freaking app game. So I have French going around me all the time.
I'm slowly picking up a little bit of French year by year against my will. But at least it means I can pronounce people's names when I know them.
Yeah, well, I'm learning by osmosis.
Anyway,
back to our topic. The fact is that officially they chose to leave because their plate was too full. Unofficially, they basically we think Disney went to them and went, "Get out, you hacks."
it's either Disney told them off because they found them to be too risky, or it's also they might have left because Disney's in too much of a panic and they're just like, let's not dip our feet into this.
No, Disney
It's
seems to
also
have a plan now.
It's also possible this is a conversation they've been having since they saw the reaction to the last season of Game of Thrones.
Yeah, because the first 3 seasons of Game of Thrones, where they had the body of work, or they had the pretty straightforward work.
It could also
good.
be that Disney has the alternate plan, which might have led them to go, nah, we don't need these two.
No, I don't think so. I think, like I said, you look at the first 3 seasons of Game of Thrones, they were wonderful, but they had pretty straightforward to work on. Then you get to the middle of Game of Thrones, and it did kind of go a little wonky, but they still had a lot of good material. It's just the fact that they had a lot of J.R. Martin had gone a bit off the rails at that point, and they had a lot of little weird plot threads going on.
And apparently they were intentionally lopping off some of the fantasy plots, which didn't exactly make it more coherent.
Mm-hmm. And then they reached the end of J.R. Martin's finished work and just had his notes to go on. And that's when the entire thing went to hell.
Well, that's actually, from what I've been hearing now lately, there's a lot of notes there to the point that, and I quote from J.R. Martin and from HBO, there was enough there to make another 4 seasons.
Yes.
There would have been enough to go to Series 10.
Yes.
On Game of Thrones, and they decided, no, we can do this and end it in 2 seasons. And they did that.
It shows that this was a bad decision.
Yeah, they basically, characters turned into basically, let's drive the plot forward, not for what would the character actually do.
And drive the plot forward and into the ground.
For anybody learning writing, this is why the outline is not enough to be the story by itself.
Mm-hmm. So basically, it needed its additional seasons and didn't get it, which is how Game of Thrones went from the greatest TV show ever, according to most people, to, oh wow, this is crap.
I would also add that the Game of Thrones prequels, there was 2 of them being worked on. One of them just finished their pilot and got canceled.
Yes, it did.
And the second one is still in the works.
The other one has been announced as being greenlit, and that's the one that J.R. Martin is working
I have not
with.
heard that it was greenlit. I heard they're still working on the pilot.
No, it's greenlit now. It means that development can actually begin.
When did that become greenlit? Because I heard as of like
about the same time the other one was canceled. It was within like 2 days of each other.
Really?
Yes.
I only heard that it was canceled like yesterday, and they still had no news in the second one yet.
I know as of yesterday, they were officially confirming one.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the Targaryen.
Okay, yeah, so it is officially coming. Okay.
It's officially greenlit, yeah.
They must have been a little bit late on it. It might have taken longer to make the video than they planned, maybe.
Now, what? Now, that's of course what's going on with Game of Thrones. What does this mean for Star Wars? Well, the Bedouin Weiss Star Wars was supposed to be the next oncoming trilogy,
Yes.
supposed to start in 2022.
Mm-hmm.
There is another one written by the guy that did The Last Jedi, Ryan Johnson, is it?
There's a
Yes.
trilogy that's supposed to be planned with him, but so far it's all been vaporware. Nothing officially has been coming out of it.
Mm-hmm.
They've also been keeping their like in other than those names, they've been keeping some things close to their chest. For example, they announced that there would be something coming out based on the Old Republic, but everybody's been wondering, is that what Dan and Dave were making? Is that what Ryan Johnson was making? Is that what Kevin Feige was making?
And that's what I
Or
was about to say. What I was going to use the name is the fact that that means that Feige is probably going to be involved in making the next direct trilogy.
That's also another thing I was going to mention too, is that Feige got mentioned for possibly wanting to do Star Wars, I want to say 2 or 3 weeks ago.
It's been mentioned quite a bit because that was one of
they started getting like serious news attention like 2 or 3 weeks ago.
it,
that he
it
was
started
thinking
to come
about
up during the whole Spider-Man not in the MCU thing.
Mm-hmm.
That was the reason
yeah.
was Feige couldn't work on it because Feige was going to go work on Star Wars.
I'm not sure,
Now,
but
of
no, the excuse I heard was that he was too busy with making plans for all the extra stuff he was going to get for Marvel. But no,
I heard Star Wars too. I heard that one
I heard
as
nothing
well as
about
Star
him
Wars.
and Star Wars mentioned until like a couple of weeks or a month ago.
it definitely was confirmed at least a month ago, maybe a
Yeah.
little longer, that he was doing a at least one Star Wars movie.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that does lean to the possibility that not only is he maybe going to be the next one that might push for a trilogy, but also the fact that that's becoming more and more official might mean that this was a move by Disney to get rid of these
Mhm.
two and bring Feige in instead.
Now, but what this also might mean is the fact that we might not have new Star Wars after Episode 9 until half a
20
decade from now.
till either like 2022 or later.
No,
Because
well,
they don't have
2022 was the plan.
because the thing is, I heard from people who are a little more into the business is that if they wanted to make it 2022, they needed to be already working on it now, and I don't think
Exactly.
Feige's going to be ready for maybe another half a year.
Yeah.
So it's probably going to
2022
be
was the
23 or
plan.
later.
2022 was the plan with Benoit and Weiss.
Hmm.
That was when their first one was going to come out, was 2022. Now that they're gone, that means anything that they had for production wise is back to step one.
Yeah, they need to
Which
push.
means
They need at least 3 years, so it's going to be 2023 at the shortest, and that's if you
Disney
push
tries
really
to do
fast.
it in two. Disney's plan is to keep doing it in two. Which I could swear to God, George Lucas is in the background going, "What the hell are you doing?" Because yeah, it was, Star Wars takes 3 years from writing to making to post. Because it used to take a year and a half in post.
Well, that's back when posts had to take that long because computers are not that fast.
But when Disney took over, they're like, "Yeah, we can do it in two." And well, they've discovered kind of not the best idea, considering what happened with Last Jedi.
It's not been the best idea because they've been pushing through scripts a little too fast without actually going, let's see how the quality holds up. Nope.
Yep.
Well, there's also like Solo went through 3 directorial teams by the time it
Yeah,
came
Solo
I don't know about
was
3,
a
for
bit
sure
of a
2.
Solo. There was at least the replace when they
out.
had to replace
They fired at least 2 directors.
Well, the 2 directors were
Well,
team.
I'm
There
counting
weren't
the
2
brothers
separate
as
ones.
one director. That I'm counting that as one director.
Yeah. So
and then they had to
switch
replace him
directors
with Ron
once.
Howard.
Mm-hmm.
Which, I was kind of surprised Ron Howard bid at that, because I've never seen him as a geek director.
But he is
Well, he
a
directed
Lucas
Willow
loyalist,
and
though.
Cocoon.
He is a Lucas loyalist, though, because he's done some other stuff with Lucas Arts or Lucas Limited.
Yeah, but Star Wars was always its distinct little baby,
Mm-hmm. And it just could, to be honest, Kathleen Kennedy is in control, and it just could have been that he was a name on the short list.
Yeah, I've also heard some stuff that Kathleen Kennedy might have been a bit of a mistake by George Lucas.
Yeah, I've heard that too. That apparently he originally put her tied together on the selling of the company, because he was hoping that she would be more on his side on things, and apparently she has just only started backing whoever's in the most control, and that's Disney now.
Yep. She turns out to be more of a kiss ass than a
Than a ground holder. So there you go.
So any possible Star Wars future other than what we're seeing on Disney Plus and any other Disney related programming, so cartoons and stuff, is pretty much on an indefinite hiatus.
And I also think, with mention of Disney Plus, it seems, especially with the way the MCU is turning so hard with Disney Plus, I'm pretty sure that the higher ups at Disney are basically saying, "Yeah, fuck the movies. We need Disney Plus exclusive content now."
I don't think that's the plan at the moment. The problem is right now with the MCU is that the big people they want to work on it are working on other stuff. Like James Gunn is currently working on the new Suicide Squad.
Because they had a mix-up with him for a while, yeah.
And they kind of want him for Guardians 3, which is why we're not seeing Guardians 3 for a while. And I think Guardians 3 is like their lead-off for the next phase.
Thereabouts. I've been hearing some weird theories about what some of the other sequels are going to be. It's like, okay. But they're only weird theories. I don't hold a grain of salt to them right now until they get closer to being fulfilled.
I know there's a Doctor Strange and Scarlet Witch movie confirmed, but I don't think it's done
movie.
Not yet.
I don't think it's a movie. I thought it's supposed to be a Disney Plus thing.
Doctor Strange and Scarlet Witch. No, I think that.
Oh wait, you're talking about Doctor Strange and the something.
The Multiverse of Madness.
Yeah, that is confirmed.
Yeah, that is a confirmed movie.
But again, I think they're waiting on the director.
That's a possibility. Although I believe someone already had a poster up, but it could have just been a fan-made one.
The problem is, that a lot of making these movies for the MCU has made people's careers. Like people like James Gunn, who had never really been heard of until he made, Guardians.
Or people like RDJ, who was basically out on his way out the door before being cast as Tony Stark.
Yeah, these movies have made people. Chris Hemsworth is another one who was
unknown.
He was the actor, but he was not a big name actor until he got cast as Thor.
And I forget his name now. Captain America,
Chris Evans.
Chris Evans.
Yeah.
Apparently, he had a few starring roles here or there, but nothing that got him a lot of attention, including one of the Fantastic Four movies.
I was gonna say, the one that got the most attention, I think, got the wrong kind of attention, being Fantastic Four.
Yeah, but that doesn't necessarily kill your career too. I mean, look at freaking Deadpool. Ryan Reynolds had the horrible Green Lantern movie, and now it's Deadpool.
It's not green or animated,
and the horrible Wolverine movie, and the horrible Blade movie.
And then what is his name? Taika Waititi.
Waititi.
Yep.
Waititi.
He is Thor Ragnarok was a big, huge break for him.
That was definitely his mainstream break. He already was, he got the break to do Thor because of his vampire indie film.
Yeah, but now
Thor is the big popular break, though.
That's the popular break that's now seeing him asked to do tons of stuff.
Including make a TV series based on that vampire movie, by the way.
He's voicing a role in the upcoming The Mandalorian series.
I did not know that. I knew
he's
still doing that character, though.
He's voicing
Thor.
IG-11, who is a rather passive robot. I'm like, wow, cool.
Okay. So they enjoy his voice work, so they're bringing him for more voices.
So if you're a Star Wars fan, get used to basically Disney Plus and whatever goes on, like Disney and Toon Disney, because that's going to be Star Wars for at least 5-6 years now, while the Star Wars division of Disney gets its act back together. And figures out where it's going.
It's all kinds of muffled right now, and they're scrambling just to get this next movie done.
Well, it's almost done. It has to be.
They've been filming up to the wire the last month or so.
Oh, they're fucked.
Yeah, they've been
They're
refilming shit all over the place.
If they're that, because that means that anything they're still filming has to go to post.
Mm-hmm.
And that means 2 months of post. 2 months of post is fine for an episode of Doctor Who.
Yeah,
it is
like
not
I
fine.
said, like I said, they've been scrambling hard because apparently nothing they do they like all of a sudden. They're being very extremely indecisive, and they're trying to get, and I air quote this, the biggest audience possible. And it's just like, Disney, you're going too hard on the biggest audience again. This could be risky, but yeah, we'll see.
Yep. So this would normally take us to where we debunk rumors, which we're now calling Breaking the Rumor Mill, where we either prove or disprove a popular rumor. Unfortunately, there are no major rumors right now.
Normally, when there's no rumor, we just skip over that. But Randy is really proud of his rebranding of our outline.
Well, yes, I am trying to establish a pattern now.
Mm-hmm.
So we are going to try in the future to deal with our sections in order. Next would be our YouTube comments section, which we don't have.
Nothing of major note, at least for this show. By
Mm-hmm.
the way, I've been speaking of which, I've been posting my stuff on BitChute as well as YouTube. I've gotten at least, I believe, 6 comments in the last month now. It's like, wow, you people are a lot more active on BitChute than you are on YouTube.
We'll have to see.
I'm also reaching easy double digits within 24 hours.
Next is our Geek Talk section. And that's going to be Matt, unless Bill, you did have something to talk about.
Yeah, I'll talk about that. The Supergirl season premiere.
Right. Actually, how about you do that first?
Okay. Yeah, television
should be,
before
'cause,
there.
yeah.
So I know I'm a few weeks behind, and I'm going to be working now that I'm kind of back into an equilibrium. I'm going to be working on slowly catching up with the CW. But I did get to watch the first episode of Supergirl, and I almost wouldn't have said anything, but there's a lot of surprises in that episode, which of course is hard to talk about without spoiling. But if you were caught up with season 4 and hadn't gotten to season 5 yet, it definitely addresses in a few big ways the bombshell at the very last. I think it was of the very last scene of season 4. If not, it was close to it. That is heavily addressed, and it seems like it's going to be a major ongoing conflict in this season.
At least until Crisis on Infinite Earths kicks in.
Yes, and at this point, it's still completely unclear how that's going to affect the rest of the season.
As far as we know, it could.
Shows, yeah.
As far as we know, it could retcon everything.
Right.
Because it's Crisis.
Right.
I mean, if Crisis works like Crisis works in the comics, and our friend Bob is going, please, 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 please. All this stuff about these guys being friends going to parallel universe to see each other won't be an issue anymore.
Right. Yeah, that's a big expectation. Another is that one of the 3 Supermen will die.
Yeah.
Almost a given, I think, and I think yeah. But yeah, so other than that of what's to come, I'm trying to think if there's anything else to mention. So yeah, there's some interpersonal drama cropping up, but it's hard to see really where that's going. That big conflict that started at the season 4 finale seems to be really the big one that's going to draw people's attention at the moment, with the other ones probably having more time to develop over the other episodes I haven't seen yet.
Okay. So it's going to be it's like it's continuing last season, at least for another 8 or 9 episodes.
Right.
In which case it'll convert over to the lead into Crisis.
Probably.
And I mean, this crossover is so big that it's kind of hard to tell where any of the CW series are going.
I mean, we know that at least I don't know if everyone else has been following the news. We do know that a Superman spinoff is going to be coming out of Crisis.
I forgot to put that in the news.
And that is going to be featuring the Superman and Lois from Supergirl.
Yep.
So
Okay.
people are talking
Tyler
about,
Hoechlin.
people are talking about how last year's crossover was kind of a pilot for that, and that it had so much of Superman in it, kind of to acclimate the audience and things like that.
So that's going to be what's replacing Arrow, because Arrow ends in the Crisis.
Yeah, I mean, Batwoman also just started, so it's kind of like they both are.
Well, no, they were. Batwoman was already planned.
Yeah.
The CW was still talking.
So it's
Had sent out stuff after Batwoman had been announced and everything, going, okay, we're looking at a new show to start up when Arrow ends. What do you fans want to see? Superman was not what the fans want. The fans want freaking Green Lantern with what's his face, Diggle, as the new Green Lantern.
Green Lantern would be a good idea because it would be to the CW what Guardians of the Galaxy was to the MCU. It would really open up the universe a bit more and have more opportunities for different things to happen.
Would be nice, but then again, it would also be pretty high budget.
Then again, people are also asking, like, when is Booster Gold going to show up? Of course, he would probably fit on well in Legends of Tomorrow.
Yeah, but they keep hinting at Diggle being Green Lantern.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they basically, you basically learned that he has a stepfather whose last name is Stewart. I think last year.
I didn't catch that because I wasn't paying attention to the guy's name.
Mm-hmm. And then when the Flash showed up, I think the John Wesley ship
Flash showed up, right?
Yeah, John Wesley ship showed up as Flash. He's like, he looks at John Diggle and goes, "Where's your ring?" Must not be true in this dimension. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So,
yeah, apparently that means he's Green Lantern in other universes. So it would be nice to see him. That would be nice to get payoff on that.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I am praying to God that Kevin Conroy will be the Batman of the Prime universe after they leave.
Ha!
Because that would just make my day.
That would be cool.
Anyway, so that's kind of what's going on, I guess, with the CW and Supergirl, right?
Yep.
Alrighty.
All right. Next would normally be movies, but we haven't been to the cinemas recently. So next will be video games.
All right. So that comes to me. I believe, yeah, it was Tuesday. I finally officially finished my run on the Warcraft 2 series. Warcraft 2 kind of splits into 3 different categories, which I will cover very simply and very quickly. Warcraft 2 Tides of Darkness is the original release of the game. It features better plotting than the first game, which had plotting, but it wasn't spectacular. It was just, it got its way through and it sort of explained some of the concepts. Warcraft 2 delved a little bit deeper into everything because I believe initially the humans weren't aware that orcs were not of their world, and they actually came through a dimensional rift. And a lot of the focus in Tides of Darkness is not only the humans taking back their homeland because they had been pushed out by the orcs and the Horde, but also because their next motive after taking back their homelands is to also find the Dark Portal and destroy it. Which they do successfully do at the end of Tides of Darkness. However, there is an aftermath, which is where the expansion comes in, which is Warcraft 2 Beyond the Dark Portal. Beyond the Dark Portal goes a lot heavier into the lore, but they have one major issue. In Tides of Darkness, I only had one mission, only one, that I ever had any issue with. And basically, it's just that they swarm you with so much stuff all at once that you just can't keep up. Beyond the Dark Portal is like that for nearly, I want to say, 3/4 of the game, if not more. Like, the first 3 or 4 missions on each side you can get through just fine, and then also the rest of them you need to cheat because they just swarm you with pre-built bases all over the game. Just becomes impossible to work through, sadly. So Whereas Warcraft 2 started getting better with its plot with each expansion, the gameplay, however, in Dark Portal just royally suffers and becomes an unplayable mess, and you're literally just going to have to cheat through most of it just to get through to the end, unless you like bring the speed down so slow that you can actually have the similar reaction time as a computer player. Because let's face it, computers are a lot faster for making commands for little AIs to work on. And then the third and final version of Warcraft 2 is Battle.net Edition. Battle.net Edition is mostly there was their big patch update for essentially bringing everything online within the game itself. Previously, before Battle.net Edition, you had to go through third-party services on websites in order to hook up with people online to play multiplayer games. But Battle.net Edition is after they released Diablo and StarCraft, they had made up their own system, which was Battle.net, to try and make things playable for people online within the game.
Unlike the Battle.net today, which is basically just an app launcher.
Yes, which they did eventually upgrade to an app launcher after becoming one with Activision. And this was, like I said, this was introduced with the Diablo games as well as the original StarCraft games. So this was their big final update. They also added a few more things for easeability of play online, including getting rid of roads, which were essentially ground tiles where you could not build. So there's less blockage when you're building your starting base location. And so that was a big enhancement to try and make at least starting up the beginning of a multiplayer game a little more conceivable and a little more nuanced and easy for people to get started instead of having to build around stuff immediately, except for trees. So, all in all, Warcraft 2, Tides of Darkness, almost a perfect game. Just one mission that's a little bit iffy in the Orc campaign. Otherwise, the rest of it is a really good game. The plot's at least serviceable for getting you through, and it comes to an almost satisfying conclusion if it wasn't for Dark Portal, which becomes an impossible game, but has really good plot going on. And then Battle.net Edition, which is the version that you're going to get on GOG if you buy Warcraft 2 on there, and it comes with modifications for online play, and I believe you can still play it on Battle.net Edition. It's still got that version there.
Wouldn't be surprised though if Blizzard like re-graphics Warcraft 2 at some point and puts it on their Battle.net launcher.
Technically, both Warcraft, I don't know about Warcraft 1, but Warcraft 2 and Diablo 1 got a special version that was a slightly upped graphical edition by GOG themselves.
Yeah, I know, but it's still technically a Blizzard-owned game. But it wouldn't surprise me if Blizzard eventually wants to put it on their frickin' Battle.net launcher.
Oh, to actually like up it, but also up it to their launcher. That really depends. They've kind of, I want to say they've abandoned it, but at the same time, there's been whispers going around of them maybe trying to do the exact same thing you mentioned to Diablo 2 now. It's just like,
Wouldn't surprise me. They're doing it to Warcraft 3 right now.
Yes, they are trying to wrap that up, and that looks amazing, but at the same time, I'm just like, I don't want to give Blizzard money.
They've also did that to StarCraft.
Yes, they technically already did that for StarCraft for free, and then later released it for people to buy.
Oh no! They released the original for free, the retooled version.
Oh, they retooled it further for the buying. Okay.
Yeah, I know because I've been playing StarCraft recently, and it keeps giving me an ad for pay $29.99 for StarCraft. I forget what they call it.
Oh, that's great. That's what they're going to do next. Is the next time I try to log into Warcraft 3 in about a year or two after I'm decided I want to finally finish the series and just get it over with.
Oh no, it's not an ad
have
in game.
ads
It's
now.
it's like an ad in the launcher.
Oh, okay. Never mind.
It's a launcher ad. It's not the frickin'.
Yeah, I can play Warcraft 3 original and Frozen Throne without the launcher.
Yeah.
I just got a little icon. I double click and automatically starts playing. At least that's got something going for it.
Yeah, I can't do that with StarCraft. I click on the StarCraft icon, it opens Battle.net and takes me to the StarCraft page.
This is why you have the physical version.
I used to. My disc broke.
Oh. I think I still have mine up in the desk here somewhere. But anyway,
I wouldn't trust me. I have broken like at least 3 to 4 StarCraft discs in my time.
oof.
One day, people will be listening to this podcast and say, "Play a video game on a disc." What
Yeah.
what is that?
It's
Oh,
like a
yeah.
baby's toy.
Don't
can't-
make me hurt you.
I think I actually would have a problem because I don't think that my laptop has a CD player or a DVD player.
Actually, when I installed Warcraft 3, they just asked for my code from my physical copy.
Mm. But no, I just started to play it because it was play for free on battle.net, and I'm just like, I haven't played StarCraft in a while. Realized I hadn't ever made it past the Zerg campaign for original StarCraft.
Oof.
I'm into the Protoss now, but yeah. StarCraft Remastered, they call it, and it's it's $14.99.
Speaking of which, by the way, I also did play the original Warcraft, but didn't do a quick review on it. Very quickly, it's clunky and old, but I found strategies that you can outsmart the AI with, so it was not hard for me to beat it.
All right. Anyway,
Just
that's really the end of
smarten
our Geek Talk section here.
I was
Yep.
going to ask, are you still planning to do a rant this week, or
I am, because it's not going to be a long one.
okay?
Basically, you might be wondering why I wasn't here last week. And I'm going to basically tell you a little story of what happened to me over the last week, and then end with a little word of advice. So last Monday, I had a gaming night with my crew at Epic, doing D&D, and I started the day feeling absolutely fine. Got up, we did a couple things. I took Aaron to work, driving back, and I felt like a little bit of a headache kick in at that point. But I'm like, okay, I can deal with that. I've had a little lack of sleep. I'm good. And I get there, and when Bob and the others get there, it's like, you look a bit run down, Randy. I'm like, I hadn't get much sleep last night. The game starts. About an hour or two into the game, I start getting cold. I mean, I
Ooh.
have my winter jacket on, and my teeth are chattering in the while we're doing this.
Okay, yeah, that's not a good sign.
And the others are busy wrapped up in what we're doing. They didn't really notice. Other than a couple of times I was up sitting there with a chair around my head. It's like, are you all right? Just tired. And so after the game's done, I pick up, go out to Erin's work, pick her up. I'm still feeling cold, so I have the heater going in my car. And Erin gets out of work, gets into the car. It's like, are you all right? It's like a blast furnace in here. I look at the outdoor temperature because my car has a thermometer. It's 50 degrees. I have the heat going like it's the dead of winter. And I look at Erin and I say, and I'm surprised at how weak my voice sounds. This is the first time I've been comfortable. She's like, okay, let's get you home. You're sick. So take me home. I go to bed. And I believe I was on the live stream for Borderlands the next day, but I didn't talk much.
You were a little bit quiet.
Yeah, because I wasn't feeling well. So I just tried to get through it. And it went through, and the week progressed like I had a cold or flu. I had the runny nose, headache, sinus pressure, horrible. And on top of it, I had a gout flare up at the same time. This is, of course, terrible because you're supposed to push fluids when you're sick. And with my gout flare up so bad, I could barely get to the bathroom, much less the kitchen where the water and all my stuff is. So I was barely eating, barely drinking. I had some cold stuff in here, and I would have Erin leave me a glass of water before she left for work. And I would use that to take my cold and flu stuff. And if I was lucky, I would remember to ask her for something to eat when she got home. That was pretty much what I was doing up until Sunday. Sunday, I was starting to feel better. My nose was clearing. The sinus pressure was starting to go away. All this wonderful stuff. And I'm like, okay, I'm really kind of sick of this gout situation. Erin, could you bring me some cherry juice? So she comes in with this big old cup of cherry juice. At this point, I hadn't eaten in about 24 hours. I didn't even think about it. I just downed the cherry juice. Unfortunately, cherry juice on an empty stomach's a bad idea because it went in and then it went out. I'm not going to give you the details, but
Thank you.
I did have to go to the bathroom multiple times with that. And I still didn't eat anything. And then I'm sitting here playing StarCraft about 8 at night, and I notice my heart strip hammer. I'm like, oh crap. Okay, let's try some breathing exercises. Heart still trip hammering. Let's change position. Heart still trip hammering. Let me sit up. Heart still trip hammering. After 20 minutes of this, I'm like, Aaron, I'm going to call 911. So I call 911. They come out. They put me on a freaking cart, take me to the hospital. You know, it's about a 5-minute trip to the hospital, an ambulance. They come in. We get to the hospital about 9 p.m. I don't leave the hospital till 6 in the morning.
Oof.
They give me an x-ray. They give me a CT scan, which I fit in now. Yay!
Yeah.
They don't find anything of note. And they say, well, we think it might be dehydration. So a good chunk of that was me sitting there with an IV saline bag. Just basically getting fluid into me, and that does seem to help. So they let me out about 6 in the morning, at which point Aaron's not slept. I've barely slept. We take a taxi home 6 a.m. I go to the bathroom. She calls into work, and we pass out for about 6 hours. 6, 7, 8 hours. I don't remember. It was damn near dusk when we woke up. During this time, my doctors are trying to call me repeatedly. Of course, my phone is off, so I don't get this until about 10, 11 Monday night. I finally take a look, and I've got voice messages. And of course, this is like, hi, Randy, this is this is practitioner so-and-so at the hospital ER. We had some follow-up on your x-rays and wanted to talk to you, can you give us a call? And then later on, yes, Randy, it is vital you call us at . And then I get a call from Nurse Sonia, who is my normal nurse for my normal doctor, who I have an appointment with the next day. She's like, hi, Randy, this is Sonia. I want to call to make sure that you're going to come in to see us tomorrow. By now, you've heard about the pneumonia. So we're going to make sure that you have all the steps to take care of that. And I'm like, that's what they wanted to talk to me about.
Oh, that's a fuck up on
Oops.
information management.
Oh, no. Nurse Sonia knows that she's supposed to tell me what's going on over the phone.
Oh, so she's allowed to give you voicemail messages?
Yes.
Okay.
Because she knows it's my personal cell phone.
Gotcha. Okay. So as long as you've signed and told her that, that's fine. Yeah.
I've signed forms to that effect.
Yeah.
Okay.
She's fine, yeah. But it's like, oh, wow.
Yeah. So, yeah, apparently that after telling me at the hospital, yeah, we looked at those x-rays. We don't think that's a pneumonia. They called back and said, yeah, we had an expert call back. That's pneumonia.
The interns looked at the x-rays, and then the attending looked at the x-rays after you went to sleep.
Apparently. Or no, I think it was the attending looked at it and didn't see anything. They sent it up to a specialist.
And the specialist
who came
went,
back
oh,
and said,
shit.
The specialist who came in at 8 a.m. on Monday and went, oh, yeah, that's pneumonia. You can tell right by this spot here. Yeah. So this scares me, of course, because pneumonia is what killed Jim Henson.
Yeah, that's something that's gotten a lot of people, honestly.
Mm-hmm. And as a heart patient, it's particularly deadly to me. So the fact is that I spent a week not knowing what that is. The moral of this story, ladies and gentlemen, is if you're coming down with something, pay close attention to the symptoms. If those symptoms can be something that is potentially harmful for you, have your doctor freaking make sure. I should have gone into urgent care on Wednesday at the latest. And I did not. Fortunately, I'm going to pull through.
Mm-hmm.
But
I had an allergy attack, by the way, last night, but it's nowhere near as bad as your whole deal. Just literally from like 9 until 3 in the 9 at night till 3 in the morning. Just my nose getting worse and worse and worse, despite even taking allergy medications for it.
Yeah.
See,
I
I would have
just
just
wanted-
been like, oh yeah, it's some combination of clinical depression and sleep deprivation. I'll be fine once I sleep for 13 hours and then never sleep for 13 hours.
See, I will do that. I've had that where it's like, yeah, I've had that. I just need to sleep for 13 hours. And then I fucking slept for 13 hours.
13 hours? That's an entire day.
I've done it before. Of course, that was after I'd been up for about a week.
I often do that the day after coming back from traveling. At
Well,
least
that's
if
just
I
jet
already have
lag.
the day taken off of work.
No, I had an Easter one time when I was like still a middle school or early high school, where we basically spent an Easter in a marathon gaming session that started the Saturday after we got off school and ended the Sunday before we had to go back. It did not stop in that meantime.
Jesus. How much
Well,
takeout
no,
did you order?
excuse me. It ended the Friday before we had to go back to school.
I was gonna say, I think you need a couple days.
Because I came home and I slept until basically it was time to go to school on Monday. Yeah, that was when I was young and stupid. Anyway, I just wanted to let you know and give you that advice about please go see your doctor if the symptoms could be something else.
Mm-hmm.
I thought I had the flu. High
See,
fever, chills.
I know when I have a allergy thing, which is why I'm not panicking. It's like, yeah, it's allergies. My nose and my throat are recovering still, but it's done.
No, I mean I thought high fever, chills, sinus pressure, headache.
Yeah, if I
That
had
all
something like chills, that'd be like, okay, no, this is something very wrong.
Well, no, the chills for me just sounded like a bad flu. And because I wasn't really coughing when I started.
I haven't had
I
a flu
wasn't
in
coughing, I
decades,
wasn't sneezing.
so yeah.
So I just thought I had a bad flu, and I'm just like, I got my flu shot 2 weeks ago, you bastards. And instead it turned out I had pneumonia. I have no idea where I caught it from, but yeah, I had it. Having it. I'm on antibiotics now, so it'll be, a few more days on those, and I should be clear.
Hopefully, as long as everything goes to plan.
Mm-hmm. All right, so now it's time for the review of Shame. Like I said, I promised I'm going to make this short. So before watching today's episode, I watched The Idiot's Lantern. There are some things I like. There are some things I dislike. What I like is I really like that 50s feel. They go a lot of the way to actually have it feel like post-war England. What I don't like the need, especially in the Russell T. Davies era, to have to give all the monsters a fucking catchphrase.
Oh, true.
I mean, the Daleks had rocked exterminate for years.
Yeah.
And they were fine with it. I was a little less pleased when they gave the Cybermen delete as their catchphrase. I don't know. It's I've come to deal with it, but I really wasn't fond of it.
There's varying levels on that. Sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. Really depends upon how they write around it.
But the Wire freaking screaming hungry just annoyed me to hell.
Yeah, it became less of a catchphrase and more of a call out to my annoyance.
Yeah, we definitely talked about that last week.
I wasn't here, so I'm having to base this.
We're telling you now, though. Yeah.
I'm not saying you should have known. Yeah, just saying we definitely did.
All right.
Yeah,
scene
we
that I like.
Feed me drum.
Scene that I like. I really like the scene where David Tennant is first meeting the detective that he winds up working with, and basically winds up turning the tables on. I don't know why.
I believe someone here didn't like that. So
I loved that particular scene, though.
I wasn't a huge fan of it. I think somebody else also said it was one of their favorite scenes
because it was just from the tell me everything, leave nothing out, to the point that he says that to the guy. It's just like, it's almost perfect. What I didn't like is any scene with the father, I forget what is Mr. whatever, because every time he started talking and acting, the only thing that kept going through my mind is, oh my God, it's 50s Vernon Dursley. Because he freaking
pretty
acted
much.
like it. And then at the end, he reveals, yes,
Not
he'd been...
inaccurate.
And he kept turning everyone in because, they're monsters, freaks. And I'm like, if he was doing it because he felt it was his duty as a soldier, or, as a former soldier even, I could have believed it better. But they just kind of demonized the guy, and I was just kind of like, oh, God, it's the Harry Potter treatment. All in all, this is probably the best Gaddis-written episode we've ever had. Yeah, it basically went downhill from there.
Yeah.
It is...
I'll agree to that.
It has a lot of good parts, but a lot of the acting, and the acting is done well, but a lot of the catchphrase writing and characterization leaves it a lot to be desired. I'm going to give it a 3.5. With that, it drops a full point, by the way, to an average of 3.7.
Well, it was 3.75. It's just our thing cuts off at
Yes, but that rounds it to 3.8. Yeah.
Yeah, so it rounded down to 3.7 now.
Yep. Right. And that'll be it for the review of Shame, which I guess wasn't that shameful because, hey, I was fucking sick. And
I'm dying over here. Let me have a day off.
That takes us to what normally would be the retconning score additions and changes, which we just kind of did. I added the score to that because I was sick. And then would be the elements of Doctor Who, but that only comes out when we have a major change to the show. New Doctor, new TARDIS, etc. So now we go to our...
in December.
What's that?
Maybe new outfit in December.
Maybe. We'll see. New costume, maybe. All right, so...
Stopwatch. Did we decide who's going yet?
Tim.
Ah.
Because last week we had to flip a coin between you and me.
That's
and
right.
You won, so...
I would have... Right. If I'd been there last week, I probably would have volunteered for this week. But...
I remember mentioning last week that it looked like you had been the one that had gone the longest.
Yeah, I know, but I'm still sick, so let me...
That's fair.
We'll give you another week off, yeah. So, right, Tim, I have the stopwatch here.
About, Shakespeare and Harry Potter.
Oh, hey, that's right up my alley anyway.
Yeah.
Are you ready, Tim?
No, but I'll go anyway.
All right, starting in 3, 2, 1, begin.
The Doctor and Rose land in what appears to be a closet. Rose says, maybe we should turn around and go someplace else. And then they have a cute little chuckle. They're wandering around this mechanical station, and the Doctor says, oh, we're at an exploratory thing. Like a moon base type thing. And they run into these creatures with tentacles and what appear to be fancy futuristic bongs holding in their mouths. But they're not really bongs, but as we'll find out later. And these beings advance on the Doctor and Rose saying, we must feed. But then it turns out that the bongs they're holding are actually translation device, and they're malfunctioning, and they really want to say, we must feed you if you're hungry. Oh, and by the way, the Doctor and Rose see graffiti on the wall that says, welcome to hell. And also, underneath that is a language that the Doctor can't decipher, which the Doctor finds curious because the TARDIS is supposed to automatically translate any writing the Doctor sees into English, or whatever English is in Gallifrey. Which means that this writing is even older than the TARDIS and technology. They meet the crew of the moon base, and they find out that they're on a planet that is in a geosynchronous orbit around a black hole, which should be impossible. Hence the name of the episode, The Impossible Planet. Planet. The Doctor discovers through the crew of the moon base type planet base thing that there is a power source at the center of the planet that is generating a gravity field that is keeping the planet from falling down into the black hole. And they are drilling to the center of the planet to find the power source. Meanwhile, an archaeologist, has been discovering rune writings that he may think holds the key. But then the archaeologist gets possessed by an evil spirit creature type thing from reading, translating the runes. And he goes outside the base where there's no atmosphere, and it survives. And then he points his finger and breaks a window, and a poor lady gets sucked out, and the Doctor and Rose and everyone feel sad. But they find out that the drill has reached the center of the Earth, and the Doctor and the lady go in a futuristic planet elevator all the way down to the thing, and they discover a temple and a giant hole. What? A giant hole with a big seal. Meanwhile, the archaeologist who was possessed by whatever it was activates all of the creatures with the tentacle faces, who are called Ood. This is the first appearance of the Ood. That start attacking everyone and breaking everything off. But the Doctor and a scientist lady tried to go back up the elevator, but the cable is cut, and so the Doctor and the scientist lady are stuck in the pit of Satan, while Rose has to rally everyone together to figure out a way to take control of the ship, the base. She does. The captain of the crew pushes buttons, letting them travel through the vents to make sure there's oxygen in them. Meanwhile, the Doctor jumps down a big pit and comes face to face with a giant monster creature that looks like a Balrog or Satan. Pick your poison.
It's a cyber demon.
Actually, I thought it was more a Baron of Hell myself.
And realizes that the prison was made so that if the creature ever broke free, the gravity field would be pulled off, and the planet would be sucked into the black hole, which is why the creature can't escape. But it turns out that the Doctor is just looking at the creature's body, and that the creature's mind has possessed the archaeologist, who is leaving with the rest of the people on a rocket ship chip because they think the planet is doomed and that the doctor and the scientist lady down in the big black hole, not the black hole, but the big dark pit, are dead. Dead. But then, the doctor breaks the prison, sending the planet into the black hole, and just then he finds the TARDIS, and with the TARDIS, he's able to rescue the rocket ship with Rose and everyone, but not before Rose shoots out the window and the evil possessed archaeologist Satan guy is sucked out into space, into the black hole, and Rose and the Doctor reunite the TARDIS, and they say, "Ciao." The end.
The black hole. Let's see here.
All right.
You did
So-
that in about 7 minutes. I want to say 48, 45 seconds.
All right. So let's go on
Okay.
to our likes and dislikes. And Tim, you are first. What did you like about this series or this two-parter?
I just loved David Tennant and the Doctor's enthusiasm for mankind in this episode. Like,
Yeah, it's-
I've never seen it on display as colorfully. Like usually, like the Doctor, has some pretty high praise for humanity, but in this episode, it was particularly strong.
Even though he was cribbing off of the Fourth Doctor the whole time.
Oh yeah, he definitely was, because Fourth Doctor did it almost as big, but not quite as
Mm.
up close to people.
Mm.
Homo sapiens.
Yes.
From the day they arrive on the planet, blinking, step into the sun. Wait, that's the Lion King.
So, normally this would be Thomas next, but Thomas isn't here. So, Bill, what did you like about the
So-
two-parter?
I like the fact that they seemed genuinely helpless. They really there wasn't like, oh yeah, you just need to, fiddle with this, reverse the polarity. They genuinely seemed like in a pickle. You didn't know what they were going to do because it seemed like nothing they did would actually solve it. So there's that actual feeling of, what's happening next and, how are they going to get out of it?
All right, Matt.
What I liked in general. I think they did a nice job with the setting on the moon base or the research base, because they managed, despite opening roofs and everything else, they made this feel very claustrophobic and very small, tightly knit place that later became more important as the horror aspect started to kick in.
All right. So what I liked is I really liked all the little tips of the hat they did to the Doom video game.
Oh,
And I'm pretty sure
the
Matt knows. what I'm-
freaking door sounds.
Yes.
Constantly, yes. Every time that came up, I'm like, I'm not sure if I can take this seriously much longer.
No, I think it was deliberate because I think it was basically somebody's like, okay, so somebody's in orbit on a small planet that's basically being taken over by hell. This sounds like the plot of Doom. So I
Who
think
bought all the sound assets from id? Raise your hand, BBC. We know you
well,
did
I'm
it.
not sure. I'm not sure if they bought it from id or if id bought it from a company that they could buy it from too. There are like certain companies that do sound effect packs.
Yeah, I do know speaking of backtracking a little bit, I know for a fact that the dragon sounds from Warcraft 2 have been used for several different things since then.
And oddly enough, apparently at one point the BBC sold the TARDIS sound in one of these packs.
Mm-hmm. One of the older Star sounds, yeah.
Because it wound up in an episode in a Kamen Rider serial.
Mm-hmm. I also know that the TIE Fighter sound effects got sold in a bundle of sound effects too, which is why you hear TIE Fighter sounds in Escaflowne.
And by the way, that is why the Wilhelm scream is as well as
Is
used
as popular as
often
it is because it started before it's made it more popular, but it's been around for a while.
Mm-hmm. They themselves were using it from a sound effects package.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that could have been that they just made sure that they got the same sound effects package, or they could have contacted it and
Literally,
deliberately
the
got.
only way they could have hammered that Doom sound effect thing home any harder is if they during one of the scenes where you see someone firing a gun is if you heard one of the demon screams.
Or if the rooms were locked by various colored keys.
No, various colored doors. So you have the yellow doors, the red doors, and the blue doors.
Unfortunately, we're all yellow doors, but yeah.
They're all yellow doors, but actually, looking at their eatery, they have red and blue lights with a yellow door in the middle.
So yeah, it did. They managed to get that Doom feeling, and it reminded me eerily of the creepiness of the episode. Reminded me a bit of Doom 3.
A little bit.
All right, so let's talk about what we disliked about the episode. Tim.
There were moments when Rose kind of got on my nerves in that sort of uppity like putting like 20th century values into alien scenes that not alien scenes but like alien environments to her that like
Well,
she doesn't
it is the series
know.
for Rose to make a prat of herself.
Mm.
I mean, we really like her in series 1, but she really does become a bit of an ass a bit of the time during series 2. She shows herself to be selfish and childish quite a bit.
Yeah, she has some rather insufferable moments here and there throughout season 2.
It's like they're trying to make us dislike her enough that we're not going to be
As
overly
heartbroken
affected.
about her leaving, yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know if that's what they did or if it was just because, yeah, she does come off as a bit condescending. I used to have that job. Yeah, it's like, okay, whatever. Although it was kind of very Hermione-ish of her to go, they're slaves. Because suddenly my brain hit at the Uder house elves. So it's like, what the fuck?
Right.
Basically.
All right,
So
Bill, how about
where's
you?
Dobie?
All right. So I actually was afraid he was taking mine for a second because what bothered me was Rose's. I know I have eyes and ears and all of the other senses, but I'm going to keep asking the doctor to tell me that what I'm seeing doesn't exist. And I'm like, Rose, damn it! Like you're here to learn, like explore and learn shit. The doctor is not omniscient, and you should know that by now. Where she keeps saying, there's no such thing, right? Tell me there's no such thing. Like, God damn it, just pay attention to
Even
what's
the doctor
happening.
has told her multiple times he's not the end all be all.
Right.
I'm pretty sure.
All right. So, Matt.
The one thing that leaves me hanging is why the archaeologist guy. And how the archaeologist guy, because they never really explain how they make that connection. It's maybe assumed it's because he's studying the language, but that's a huge leap to already get to that idea.
I don't know. I assumed it from moment one.
My
See,
my more reasonable guess would be that maybe the guy has some sort of psychic link, or that he is unaware of, or he might be mentally weaker somehow, or more susceptible than others to the air quotes devil's influence. But it's really
Or
they
there's
don't
some
really
kind of
hammer it home.
or there's some kind of moral flaw he has.
That's a possibility too. And well, actually, technically, they mentioned that almost everybody there has some sort of moral flaw. Apparently,
Yeah, but his might be a little worse than others. Something else that.
Maybe
not worse than the doctor's, at least as the doctor perceives himself at that version of history.
All right. So what I disliked about this is that the episode tries to be scientifically accurate and then fails completely. Now, I should probably explain this. I am friends with somebody who has a master's degree in astrophysics.
Mm-hmm. Sarah.
Yes, Sarah. She hates this episode. She hates this episode because the premise that we are in orbit around a black hole and they make it sound like it's impossible. Guess what?
Not
It's not.
impossible. Yeah, it's not actually impossible. It's impossible for how close they are, but it's not impossible.
Correct. But the way that they word it is, we're in orbit around a black hole, but that's impossible. They don't say, but that's impossible at this distance
Mm-hmm.
or anything. They just act like it's impossible to orbit a black hole.
Period, which is not logical.
Correct. And it really kind of hurts me that Doctor Who, which had gone out of its way to be pretty scientifically accurate when it goes into science,
Especially in modern Who.
made this ripping hole in its flaw.
Mm-hmm.
Well, when I say science, I mean actual science instead of pseudoscience.
Yeah.
Reversing the polarity of the neutron flow is pseudoscience.
Yeah, they'll still do little fluff pieces that are still a little touch beyond, but when it's something like this is stuff that they should have known if they did any amount of research.
Correct. And they did not do the research. And in the Russell T Davies era, that actually hurt a little. And mind you, me not having a master's degree in astrophysics, bought it when I saw it. And I'm like, I said to Sarah, isn't that a great episode? She's like, nope. I'm like, why? And this is the same person that would watch the movie Armageddon to basically find the amount of scientific inaccuracies in it.
Yep, there's
So
a lot.
that just hit her like a glaring wound. And I'm like, I kind of left that. And I said, what was wrong with it? And she looked at me like I should be, needing a drool bib and a freaking dunce hat. And I really hate going out of conversations with Sarah looking like a whipped puppy. So, yeah, that lack of scientific accuracy just hurt me.
See, I understand where she's coming from, but it is really them not properly explaining it to the audience, which might not get it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm like, I automatically already correct in my head at this distance.
Yeah, but they know that line should have been there.
It technically should have been, but I auto correct on myself for that already, so it doesn't bother me nearly as much. So the mileage will vary on that, but yeah, that
I
is
have to
an
check
accuracy.
something because after that they do mention that it's geostationary orbit.
Oh,
and
maybe
I have to check to see if that
might be the
defines
touch.
geostationary.
That might be an even further definition problem.
And where you can geostationary orbit from, that kind of thing. But yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because I know satellites can geostationary orbit, but they've got thick thrusters and stuff to do it. But
Yeah.
Yeah, to have a planetoid do it, I don't think so. I think you have to be in a far more distant and elliptical orbit. Anyway, favorite scene. Tim.
I just love this scene when the Doctor asks permission first, but says, "Can I hug you?" And the captain says, "Okay."
Slowly comes in.
So he's coming in. Like, there's like, "We have contact. The Doctor has hugged a man. Hooray! Hooray!"
And I was
for
watching that
admiration of
scene.
humanity.
I was watching that scene today, and it's like, just think, in 2 regenerations, you're going to be not the hugging guy.
Well, one regeneration before that, he was also. I mean, well, he started that regeneration as not the hugging guy and kind of eased into it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he actually eased into it quite quickly, at least for certain people.
Just not Jackie.
Yeah. All right. Bill, your favorite scene.
So I'm going to go with. So there's the scene where the doctor expresses all of the faith he has in Rose. I'm not talking that moment, but immediately following it, when Rose actually is being smart and kind of justifying that faith and, trying to figure out what's going on. I really liked that.
Yeah, that's
When
that's
she's
the
when she's
experience
on the
Rose that we
rocket.
want to see.
Yeah.
Matt.
I have to say I quite enjoyed the pre-cyber cyber demon.
Hmm.
It wasn't the greatest effect ever, but it was still very nicely done for the time, and I think it was only afterwards that they started borrowing a lot of elements from that for other episodes, including Torchwood, and it's just like, oh, you just borrowed from your previous good episode. Come on, guys.
I always thought it was an overgrown Baron of Hell myself.
Like I said, it's the pre-cyber demon. It's too big to be a Baron of Hell. Baron of Hell's like maybe just
That's
only
why I
slightly
said
larger.
overgrown.
Just slightly larger, whereas this is much closer to a cyber demon size because I have faced them in the latest ones. Oh
I
boy.
think this buries Cyber Demon size because I do remember the size of the Cyber Demon. And
Have you played the 2016 game?
no, I've played the original.
They got bigger.
Hmm.
They got bigger,
Because
and
this-
they
cause-
actually
cause-
made it a puzzle fight
Because
instead
this
of
one,
just a regular
the
fight because
head
he's so
was
overpowered.
bigger than David Tennant.
Yeah, the torso. It's maybe not quite this size, but it's bigger than an old cyber demon and slightly smaller than this still. But they got bigger. So cyber demons always fluctuate in size now. But yeah, it was still a pretty solid effect. Very nicely done. Essentially, I liked the fact that they shackled not just the wrist, but apparently both horns on the head, but only one of the horns is still there completely. Which means it's been hammering it away to try and free itself for a while.
All right. So my favorite scene. First of all, of course, there's the David Tennant "I have faith in her" scene. But I also like Rose's getting people's shit together. When they're after the rope snaps and everybody's just basically in a funk.
Isn't
going
that Bill's scene?
No, because that scene happened a lot earlier. The Rose scene that Bill was talking about happened on the shuttle.
Right.
Oh, never mind. Yeah, I'm
I am
confusing parts
talking
of the scenes. Yeah,
when they're still in the sanctuary base and the rope snapped and everybody's just basically ready to give in. And Rose basically talks them into action and basically makes them think. That one I really liked. Because it's normally something the doctor would do, but Rose is like, okay, he's not here. We can't contact him. I have to do this. And manages to pull it off. All right, least favorite scene. Tim.
The least favorite scene is when Rose says to the soldier guy who is threatening to kill the archaeologist if he twitches, hey, if you kill him, you'll have to kill me too. And it's like, Rose, you do not know the whole story. You do not know the thing. This is one of those like shut up, Rose moments that just nails it home.
For me, it was an extension of the doctor doesn't kill. I'm not going to let them just execute him yet.
At the same time, they should have been cautious.
They should have at least confined his ass, but
middle
of a crisis, I guess.
Well, I think, yeah, right after that, they continued to have an upgrade in the problem with the Ood.
Yep.
So their attention was diverted again.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I would have probably confined him, but, not, I wouldn't have been ready to pull a gun on him right there. Bill, how about you? Your least favorite scene?
My least favorite scene is the one when the doctor is just standing there like, no, nothing from before the Big Bang could possibly exist, even though, I'm this time traveler who's been to the dawn of time and seen these, the great vampires and everything else. But something from before that is just impossible, even though I'm pretty sure he would be well aware that the prevailing theory is that there's been multiple Big Bangs, and it just seemed dumb.
I will agree with you, but I will say that he seemed very wishy-washy back and forth on the topic because at some points he's like, "Nah, there's nothing that existed back then," but then sometimes he would be like, I don't know if anything actually existed before."
I think a lot of it is the way it's supposed to come off. Isn't that he doesn't believe it?
Yeah,
It's
maybe that he
that
doesn't believe it. It's
like
just that he doesn't want to give it the credit to
it's
the
like
creature.
he's chosen not to. It's
Yeah.
one of those things.
Yeah, I mean, I got that as a very likely possibility too, but that was just annoying.
Mm.
Yeah, it was still
Added
very
annoying.
annoying that he was back and forth on it, and he could have been a little more upfront with the audience. What his real thought is.
All right, Matt, your
Those
least
later
favorite?
thought might have been what it was. Least favorite. Oh god, I had one and now I just slipped it. Least favorite scene, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Um, I can't really think of anything else that came off as silly, so I'm gonna say that the scene where the archaeologist goes full demon and starts to be so cartoony he spits fire was like, what the fuckery? I understand that because his prison is broken and he might have like had like a surge of power and lost control over staying looking like a human. But they kind of played it a little too over the top and just made it really, really silly.
Well, at that point, I think it was the fact that his plan had gone awry, because the plan was to have the consciousness escape with the ship, so
Which
he
he
could go out
was, but then it's just
with
that
the
I don't know
prison
what
breaking.
triggered it, but he just suddenly goes full devil mode in the ship,
Well,
and it's just
the
like,
prison
yikes.
broke, and that means the ship is spiraling into black hole with the freaking planet. So
Yeah. Well, again, my major problem is not that he goes ape shit, but the fact that he goes so ape shit and they don't do a really good job of it. They go too cartoony with it.
I think that's partially the actor.
It might be,
But
but the visual effects artists for it too, though. Again, with the spitting fire and so forth. It's
that
just like,
was a bit dull scene, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm. Don't get me wrong, I can understand the big physical version of him spitting fire, but the little normie human guy, beyond maybe breathing in a non-atmosphere, seems a bit too extreme, especially since he's new to this body.
Mm-hmm. Mine is the same scene, but for the resolution, not the thing.
Oh, mm-hmm.
Because she then just, blasts him out of the ship into space. This is the guy that stood unshielded on the surface of the planet.
Yeah,
Turned
and was
and
not
grinned.
moved at all.
Mm-hmm.
Well, sun gravity works for the ship!
So it's like, well, that was explosive decompression blowing him out.
Right.
Still, he walked out into what is essentially a giant maelstrom of stone and gases outside and was unmoved except for maybe the rippling of his clothing.
Yeah. And he was able to turn around, and I could tell why they hired this guy.
I can tell why they did too, because he had a good
demonic grin.
Yeah, he had a great, really evil look on him when he was called to do it. But it's just that last particular scene where things went a little too hammy.
Yeah, I just don't like the scene because he should have been, instead of just, in like that, he should have been still trying to get at the ship from outside.
Mm-hmm.
Because, vacuum didn't affect him anymore, so why should it affect him there? It's like that.
Yeah,
sense.
they should have upped the ante. Make it less about him acting hammy and more about them actually pushing him out the hole.
Mm-hmm.
There should have been more to that effect because it was too easy.
All right. So, final thoughts, Tim.
Final thoughts. I thought this was a really good two-part episode that featured some great insights into the Doctor's thoughts on humanity, as well as stellar performances from the supporting cast this time around. The only weak spot were like the prattishness of Rose at points, but that was kept at bay for too long. And I can't help but wonder if the Ood were deliberately designed to resemble Cthulhu.
Yeah, I think they were.
Probably. It's just an
Yeah.
afterthought that they went, oh, we can actually bring these suits back. We have a lot of them that are still working.
Mm-hmm.
I think they were deliberately designed to look akin to Cthulhu wings, just for that initial fear factor.
Mm-hmm.
Fear Factor. Now that's a name I've not heard in.
A long time.
Long
A long,
time.
long time.
Yes.
Yeah, and it was usually not used in that particular context.
Mm-hmm.
But
Context Tinkle. Yeah. All right, go ahead, Tim.
Twins
So-
vessel.
other than Rose's questionable moments, this was a pretty solid episode that I'd recommend.
All right. Bill?
So when I first watched this, I think I really liked it because I hadn't seen anything like it on Doctor Who. You know, there's this big, powerful force, and it's, very interesting. Looking back on it, it doesn't seem all that impressive anymore. Partially the graphics haven't aged well. Partially, they bring back such great hits as drilling to the center of a planet is a bad thing.
So now
Ultimately-
so now that you're looking at it as the educated Whovian.
Right. I definitely enjoyed the performances. But I'm not so sure about the story altogether, especially since in many ways it seems like they got to page 80 of the script and they were like, how do we resolve this? A wizard did it. And that was it.
Thought it was a little more than a wizard did it.
Okay.
Wait for next week to make the wizard did it reference, Bill.
He found the TARDIS randomly. He's not even wearing a ring.
That was a bit Deus Ex, yeah.
Yeah. That, and as you mentioned, the even the revolution of Satan himself wasn't all that well thought out compared to previous scenes. So it's just seems like they just kind of slapped together an ending. They did do a good job setting the mood for some scenes, so I can't completely blow off that aspect. But I feel like a lot of it kind of fell apart in the second half.
All right. That all you have to say?
Yeah.
Matt?
I'm going to say I still really enjoy this. Yes, there are things that became derivative after this that borrowed a lot of the Satan Pits and Impossible Planets ideas. And I will say that some of it technically is even a throwback to some of the godlike beings from like the classic Who. But you never got to see quite the representation like this before until New Who.
Closest
And
you
this
got was the Daemons.
Yeah, and this is essentially New Who's Daemons, and they did a really good, decent job of it. They got rid of the Master, but that wasn't a huge problem for this particular story, I think. It made things a little less complicated and also helped the particularly timed format at for New Who. The visuals are aged, but they're not horribly aged as far as I'm concerned. There are far worse visuals than second season New Who.
Yeah.
We always reference the werewolf particular this season. They just did a
yes.
really good job with CG monsters at the time.
The werewolf is still good by today's standards.
Yeah. There's maybe one or two werewolves that almost match it, but they're still in overwhelmingly bad movies then. So it's a slice either way. Either you have a decent looking werewolf or a bad movie, or you have a bad movie or a good movie with really bad werewolves. It's like
I remind people that this was the same year that Prisoner of Azkaban came out in the theaters.
Yes, and they had terrible werewolves.
Yep.
I want to say a couple years later they tried remaking The Wolfman, and it was at best comical, at worst farcical. And the only other CG werewolf I can think of at the time that holds a lantern is Van Helsing, and even then the plot and the movie itself just didn't hold water. Anyways, back to this. I really liked the visuals are are aged, but they're not badly aged. For their time, they're still really good. The Ood prosthetics in particular hold out really well and still do. They keep dusting them off, it seems, every once in a while, especially for background characters. And as we also kind of have mentioned, they later on get a little more fleshing out, I believe, in a season or two. Yeah, it's next season,
By
isn't it?
series 4.
Yeah. Oh, 4. So in 2 more seasons, they get a little more fleshed out.
Because it was with Donna.
Mm-hmm. The set design was really well done. Little homages, and also I love the homages to other little things too. I noticed there's a quick couple little bits that the Doctor made mention of, like previous episode things. I can't remember what they were off the top of my head though. Well, like for instance, he mentioned Moonbase. It's apparently this is a similar model base.
By the way, it should be pointed out that this is the first appearance of the orange suit.
Yes, and this is the first appearance of the orange suit, which would keep getting repeated, at least as far as recently as Capaldi. I don't think the current Doctor has used the orange suit yet.
No.
Unless she crash landed in it, but I don't think so. No, she crash landed in her previous outfit. Yeah. The plot. The only thing I find that's a major problem is maybe there's a couple little hinges on the story that are a little bit off, or a couple of character moments that are a little bit off. But other than that, a majority of this is really well done, and I quite enjoy it every time. And this is going to get not. I don't think this is going to be a perfect rating, but it's going to definitely get a high rating.
All right.
Yep.
So, my opinion on this is that, again, Series 2 is one of my favorite seasons. And looking back on it, it is episodes like this that are what make it one of my favorite seasons. Yes, there are some problems with the resolution. And the Deus Ex problem is something that the Russell T Davies era had, was indicative of it.
Yeah, basically in spades, yeah.
Yeah, Rose suddenly sucks up the power of the vortex through the TARDIS and ends the Dalek race. That's pretty Deus Ex right there.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the ending for Series 1. So him happening to find the TARDIS, which fell down that way, just by walking down a couple of or running down a couple of corridors, I can deal with that. The graphics being out of date, they didn't look out of date when they came out, and we are currently judging Classic Who by the graphics of its days, so I can't find any fault with those.
Yeah.
There are some problems with the writing, mostly the instability in Rose's character that was introduced this series.
Yeah.
And the resolution, like I said, of firing the guy to the into space to get rid of him just seemed to be I thought was a weakness, because it, was something that he could stand before, so why couldn't he stand it now? Didn't make sense to me. And those kind of things will retract from it. But for me, it's still a good episode and still a very enjoyable one. And I especially love the atmosphere and the acting and the little nods to the head to the Doom games, because I'm wondering if somebody... I'm wondering if, when they were running this around the ideas, somebody should do a Doom-like episode of Doctor Who. I'm wondering if that's where this got started.
The only problem with that is that, like they already did with this episode, is that they're going to pull back from every single time they start opening fire, because you can't show those kind of graphic visuals on a family show.
I was gonna say, the Doctor wouldn't shoot the demons. He would aim a screwdriver at them
and try to pacify them. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure there's a Doom mod for that.
What surprised me, there's a Doom mod for everything.
All right, ratings. All right, so Tim, you are first on the list.
Oh,
what do you give our Demon Pit?
Demon Pit, 4.5 stars.
4.5. All right, and then there's no Thomas, so we're gonna have to find out why he's AWOL. Bill,
I'm gonna say 3.5.
3.5 from our well, I can't call you a doubting Thomas, can I?
He's our spiteful Bill.
All right, Matt.
I'm giving this an easy 4.5. A few corrections, this could have been a 5.
Yeah, I have to agree. This is a 4.5. I'm sorry, Bill, but you're the only one that's odd out in this case.
Yeah.
And
Spiteful Bill.
that gives us a average of 4.3 for this episode. So that's going to be relatively high on our rankings.
Oh yeah, the other thing I like to make a quick mention of that we did, I think we covered it over really quickly, but didn't really go into it. I like the fact that the demon speak is something that even the TARDIS can't translate. Just something so freaking old that even the Doctor's sitting there going, "Oh wait a minute."
So looked at the writing and went, "Oh, it's Enochian."
Yep. Yeah, just sat there, looked at the writing, like, "What the hell? Why can't I make this out?"
Okay, so let's deal with the two things, the one that got changed and the current one.
Mm-hmm.
So the Idiot's Lantern comes in at a 3.7. That, in our current list, will put it at number 191 out of 200 or 317 reviewed items.
Still top half.
Since that's last week's, I'm not going to go onto the par list there.
Mm-hmm.
However, the Impossible Planet, the Satan Pit, rating a 4.3, will come in at number 95
Ooh.
out of the same number. It is on par with such things as The Mind of Evil, Empress of Mars, Silence of the Library, Forest of the Dead, Terror of the Autons, The Last Christmas, The Rescue, The Unquiet Dead, 10th Planet, Demons of the Punjab, Ark in Space, Waters of Mars, The Witchfinders, Spearhead from Space, Web of Fear, and a crap.
Sorry, it's been difficult. Just a second. Says I'm still connected at least. Sorry, we're having difficulties. My system's telling me I had a hiccup here. Just a moment.
Bill?
All right. So please comment below. Let us know who you agree with, if anybody, or if you love the episode, hate the episode, 5 out of 5, 1 out of 5. Let us know in the comments. On YouTube or follow on Twitch to keep seeing our.
All right. Next week, we will continue our tribute to Tennant by moving ahead to Series 3. It is the episode with the Bard himself. It's The Shake Roberts, and starring David Tennant as the Doctor and Freema Agyeman as Martha Jones.
Sorry, Shakespeare code for everybody listening. I'm having suddenly a whole bunch of hiccups in audio here.
So,
Nope.
so see you all next week.
See you then.